Good afternoon, Class 7th. This is Sam John, and I will be your science teacher for this session. I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy. So, we will start off with our first chapter, and that is nutrition in plants. Now, as you all might remember, in class 6th, you studied various components of food such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals. You also studied in which type of food can you find these components, right? So these components of food are called nutrients, and they are essential for our body and for all living beings to thrive. So, nutrients are very essential both for us as well as for plants. Now, as you all know, plants are the only organisms on the earth that can prepare food for themselves. They simply use whatever nutrients and essential requirements are present around them. So they use water, they use carbon dioxide, they use minerals, they use the energy of the sunlight, etc. So, this type of nutrition in which the organism makes food for themselves from simple substances is called autotrophic nutrition. You have to memorize this term. It is called autotrophic nutrition. Here, auto means self and trophos means nourishment. So, self nourishment, autotrophic nutrition. Therefore, plants are called autotrophs. Now, animals and most other organisms take in food prepared by plants. Therefore, they are called heterotrophs. Now, you will note down in your copy the differences between autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Make a table and start writing. So, the first difference is autotrophic nutrition is the type of nutrition in which an organism makes its own food. You have already understood this. So, in heterotrophic nutrition, the organism obtains nutrition by feeding on other organisms. The second difference is the organism prepares its own food and hence is dependent on only the basic raw materials like sunlight, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, water, etc. So, in heterotrophic nutrition, the organism does not require any raw material because it does not make its own food, it depends on other organisms. In autotrophic nutrition, it cannot take place without the presence of chlorophyll. In the next slide, we will be learning in more detail about chlorophyll. It is the green pigment present in plants. There is no such requirement in heterotrophic nutrition. So, for an example of autotrophic nutrition, green plants and algae. We will also observe what algae is in the further slides. For examples of heterotrophic nutrition, any animal, any non-green plant, they show heterotrophic nutrition. So, how do plants make their own food? That is the question, right? Now, the process by which plants make their own food in the presence of sunlight and carbon dioxide and water and minerals and the green pigment chlorophyll that is present inside their leaves. This process is called photosynthesis. It is called photosynthesis because photo means light and it can only happen in the presence of light. Therefore, it's called photosynthesis. You will write these points down in your copy and you can understand them as you write them. Okay. So, plants take up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So, on their leaves, there are small, tiny, invisible pores to us. Okay, their leaves have very tiny pores. those pores are called stomata, and these stomata are protected and surrounded by guard cells. Okay, the diagram will be there in the next slide. And plants also absorb water and minerals from the soil. So you see, they are getting sunlight, they have chlorophyll, carbon dioxide comes in through the stomata or the guard cells, and then they absorb water and minerals from the soil. That is why water is very essential for plants, because the roots help absorb these water and minerals from the soil, and then after absorbing them they transport them to the leaves of the plants with the helps of small vessels which run like pipes in a system. Okay, so simply like pipes in a system, these vessels help transport the water and minerals through the entire plant, its stem and branches and its leaves, where the food will be prepared. So, as discussed before, the green pigment present in leaves is called the chlorophyll. Without the presence of chlorophyll, photosynthesis cannot take place and leaves cannot prepare their food. Alright? This helps the leaves of the plant, this chlorophyll pigment, to capture the sunlight, and it acts as the source of energy required to carry out the process to make the food. Okay, so without energy, plants cannot synthesize their food. And photo, as I told you, means light, and synthesis, as you know, it means to combine. So since we say that solar energy of the sun is captured by the leaves and stored in form of food, it can also be said that sun is like the ultimate source of energy for all living organisms. Why? Because even for heterotrophs, if the autotrophs are not present, since they are dependent on other organisms, even heterotrophs won't be able to survive. So that is why sun can be said as the ultimate source of energy for all living organisms. Because if the sun does not provide energy to the leaves, then obviously the entire ecosystem will perish. Draw a neat and clean label diagram of photosynthesis. You can pause the video here and then draw this diagram neat and cleanly in your copy. Okay, very important diagram. Now we have heard of chemical changes taking place, right? Similarly, synthesizing food is also a chemical change. So there must be some sort of a reaction taking place there. Yes? So that reaction during photosynthesis, the chlorophyll containing cells of the leaves, they have the energy. So they synthesize the food. So these cells of the leaves, in the presence of sunlight, what they do is they use carbon dioxide and water. They got carbon dioxide from where again? If you remember, from the stomata, which was protected by the guard cells, and water from the roots, water and minerals from the roots. So they use this carbon dioxide and water to synthesize carbohydrates. Now, if you remember in the beginning of the chapter, we talked about carbohydrates, which was an important component of food. Carbohydrates are essential for energy to sustain growth. Yes, so these synthesize carbohydrates, and we all know plants breathe in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. That is why plants are good for us, for the environment. Why? Because they give oxygen. They take in carbon dioxide and give out, expel oxygen. Yes, so carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, it gives us carbohydrate plus oxygen. Okay, now you can see a diagram which is showing a section through a leaf. So it's showing how guard cells are surrounding the stoma. Stoma, don't be confused, is this singular word for stomata. When there is a lot of stoma present, we call it stomata. So stomata is the plural word and stoma is the singular word. In between them, you can see above is the chlorophyll pigment, the green pigment that you are seeing, that is the chlorophyll. So you can see the stomata down there with the guard cells and the stomatal opening. Okay, from where the carbon dioxide is taken in. So if you all remember, in class 6th you have done this experiment where you tested the presence of starch. The presence of starch in leaves indicates the occurrence of photosynthesis. That means photosynthesis, if it has occurred, there will be starch present in the leaves because starch is a carbohydrate. So now all of you open activity 1.1 in your textbook. So look at the activity. You take two potted plants and one is kept in complete dark for 72 hours, that is 3 days, and the other one is kept in sunlight. So after 3 days, we will perform the same iodine test, which is the test to denote starch in leaves. Yes. So which plant do you think it will show starch? Obviously the one which was kept in sunlight. You can always try this. Okay. Now after 3 to 4 days, the one plant which was kept in sunlight will show the presence of starch, and the other one will not turn blue, so it won't show the presence of starch in the leaves. Okay. Now here, two interesting things that you can note is the first thing, some leaves are non-green. That is, chlorophyll is still present in them, but their color is not green. Now this is because there are other color pigments like red or brown which mask the color of the green color of the chlorophyll. They hide it, but the chlorophyll is still present in the leaf. You need to understand this. That is why in those leaves also photosynthesis takes place. You might have seen red leaves or brown leaves or white even. So photosynthesis also takes place in these leaves even though they are not green in color. Again, have you seen slimy green patches, these green colored plants growing on stagnant water bodies? These organisms are called algae. They are living organisms. They are not plants as such. Alright, these are called algae. They also contain the pigment chlorophyll, and that is why they have green color in them. Okay, so algae, they are called the slimy green patches in ponds or stagnant water bodies. They also have chlorophyll present in their bodies, so they also appear green to us. Let us now quickly come back to a previous slide. Now you might have noticed this box here in which it was said that photosynthesis also takes place in other green parts of the plant, like in green stems and green branches. So try to think where you might have seen this. Do you have aloe vera plant at home? If so, you might have definitely seen this. In the desert, because plants also lose water through their leaves, that process is called transpiration. You have studied it in 6th class. So desert plants, so as to not lose leaves, they have very spine-like leaves. So their green pigment, the chlorophyll, is present in their stems. So the stems carry out photosynthesis. Example, cactus. Okay. So this is called transpiration. So now that's it for today. You have to do these questions in your copy. First question is, how would you test the presence of starch in leaves? Go through our class today again. If you can't answer that on your own, try and answer these questions on your own. Okay. The second question is, differentiate between autotrophs and heterotrophs, and you have to give examples of each. Give at least 3 examples of each. Third one is a fill in the blank question. Solar energy is absorbed by the pigment known as dash. Fourth question, what are the essential requirements for photosynthesis to take place? And the last question, what is transpiration? So what did we study today? For a quick recap, we studied about nutrients and why nutrients are necessary to us. Then we looked at the differences between autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. So in autotrophic nutrition, it is the organisms that make their own food, and in heterotrophic nutrition, the organisms depend on us for food. All right. Then we studied the process of photosynthesis. Very important process that you need to memorize by heart each of the points. Write all the points in your copy. Okay. How photosynthesis takes place. The green pigment chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. It takes place in the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide, air, water, all of these, and the structure and the leaves. Structure and the structure of stomata, you have to memorize it, and the reaction that is taking place in photosynthesis, that is carbon dioxide and water react in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to give you carbohydrate, and oxygen is released. Okay. So that's it for today. All of you, prepare well. We'll meet again tomorrow. Thank you and bye.